thing with the military bases where they can reach out for mutual aid. Okay,
Oh yeah.
if the civilian police departments or sheriff's department overlap a military base, then the military, if they are unable to respond with a critical strike team, which a lot of these bases do not have, especially naval bases, they can call out for assistance from the local civilian level sheriff's department and give them temporary authority or what do you call it, marshalship?
Yeah, they don't have any authority themselves, but they are under the wing of one of the security personnel there, or something like that.
Well, they're still law enforcement at the state level, but they have overlapping authority when requested.
Okay,
Meaning
but
that they're not going to face, if they screw up when they're on the naval base or the military base, they're not going to face the military justice system. They will face the local and state level prosecution.
No,
there is the bit of both there.
Is logical. Yeah, the call for assistance part of it, that is logical to me completely. That no issues there at all. But I would imagine that a base with that level of well, let's just call it cool stuff and things on the base, that they would have, if not an SOF or QRF, quick response force or team, they would at least have armed guards to act on stuff like that.
So
especially after 9/11.
So for the audience out there who are wondering what the conversation started with, we are addressing the couple of incidents that took place in the last week, with on Wednesday the shooting that took place at Naval Station Pearl Harbor, and just earlier today Eastern time in Pensacola, Florida, at the Naval Air Station down there. So we started talking about the comparison and connection between the military security forces and local law enforcement, and how all of that wonderful stuff plays in together. And that's where there is the agreement between. But to be fair, there's something you wished. Depending on how or in what way you fuck up on base, here's the thing that a lot of people who've never been connected with the military at all don't realize. Being a service member in the U.S. military, you actually do not have the same protection from double jeopardy that the civilian counterparts do, which means you can commit one offense, you can be punished by the military court system and the local state or federal court system as well.
Which is messed up, even though it's usually, intended for bad guys, but it's still a messed up thing. Yeah. It's like guards beating up an inmate for what that inmate got in prison for. I mean, that's just not on.
Yeah, I think they're also talking about the posse comitatus, if I pronounced that correctly.
Yeah, and one of the things that we were talking about is, so with the recent attack that took place this morning down at Naval Air Station Pensacola, Florida, which is a place that both of you wished and I spent time at. I spent damn near a year there. That base, at least in the early 2000s, was the home of the second phase of training for the enlisted for every aviation-related rate for the U.S. Navy, as well as your cryptology techs, your U.S. Naval Intelligence enlisted analysts. Their school was down there under the same umbrella, but on a different installation, only a matter of miles away, but still there under the same umbrella. The Blue Angels, that is their summer home. Their most of the year home, that is their primary base that the Navy Flight Demonstration Team operates out of, their actual name. You also have an officer candidate school there. You have the naval recruiter school used to be there. You have the initial flight training program for the U.S. Navy is there for fixed wing
Only
aircraft.
one of two of them are. There's also the one at Meridian, Mississippi.
Yeah, well, they primarily go towards rotary wing, so they end up sharing a lot of the primary flight. But generally, what happens if you are designated for fixed wing, they try to put you at Pensacola. Whereas if you're going to be rotary wing, they try to put you at Meridian. But there is that interlacing in between, which is actually one of the changes that the Navy has made across the board while I was still in the late, towards the end of the first decade of the 2000s, where even for the A school, even for that initial step of training after basic, what they would try to do, instead of having the A school in one location at Pensacola, they farmed it out to other bases. So if they figured out, okay, we're going to have you be East Coast versus West Coast. So what some of them ended up doing is they would do their A school either down at NAS Jacksonville or NAS Oceana. And then their permanent duty station would either be at that same location on that same base or a short travel distance away. So like Oceana would get a lot of people. A good portion would stay there at Oceana, but then a good number of them would also go over to Naval Station Norfolk to one of the aircraft carriers that's home ported out of there. And then same thing on the West Coast, if they were going to be a West Coast sailor, they would send them down to San Diego, do the A school and C school there, or up at Lemoore, and then you would be assigned accordingly out of there. They were trying to cut overhead in the travel costs of training, and as such, they farmed out that division of training as much as they can. However, there are certain things that do end up staying very local. So like people who are going to be flying the P-8 Poseidon, which back when I was in, it was still the P-3 Orion, was the maritime surveillance aircraft. The only training base for that platform was NAS Jacksonville. So every pilot, every member of the air crew for that platform, both U.S. and our allies, went through NAS Jacksonville, went through VP-40, went through the Crow's Nest. Now that they've transitioned to the P-8 Poseidon, it's the same thing. They all funnel through there. So the shooting that took place today at NAS Pensacola has been confirmed to be a Saudi national as the person who actually committed the act. And a lot of people have had that question: why was a Saudi national there to begin with? And the reason why he was there is he was going through initial flight training, which is hosted there at NAS Pensacola. So, yeah. Safe to say, when it comes to military operations and things of that nature, I was an observant little fuck to actually pay attention to things like that and actually ask the questions like, wait a minute, why do... Because I remember there was, what really caught my attention to it was, first when I was in Pensacola, and I went over towards where the bowling alley was, and I saw someone in an odd-looking flight suit, and they had the German flag on their arm. I'm like, what the hell are they doing here? And come to find out, talking with some of the... Actually, it was from talking with the manager of the pro shop at the bowling alley, who happened to be a chief petty officer. Didn't know it at the time, found that out after. That's where he told me, oh, on this other side of the base is where they do the flight training, and he's here as part of that integrated training with our allies. So he's already done some initial flight training in Germany, but now he's doing more of it here because he's ultimately going to end up flying one of our platforms. So shared training makes it easier to work together during actual operations. Then, so what was the particular bit with the one that took place at Pearl Harbor? Hey.
That, I think, was just a Marine kind of went sideways.
So I kind of dominated things there for a bit, but does anyone else have any other information or questions about what had gone on there in that realm of things?
Still leading.
So Bo, yes. Every nation that is going to be getting the F-35 is doing joint training through the U.S. pipeline until they have their own fleet of aircraft and they can have their own homogeneous training for the nations that are capable. So like the British are in that in-between where they can do their own homogeneous training. They have enough of the aircraft now. But before that, all of the international pilots who were being trained for the F-35 went through either Oceana or Lemoore, California.
Yeah, I was wondering about, the British Navy, whether they decided to train their own pilots on the V-stall version of the F-35. I think they bought a couple of those.
Yeah, so they're doing...
Not sure though, but...
Yeah, they're doing the B
they
variant.
They're capable of training their own, though.
They will. I'm not sure where their staffing is on that, but the UK is one of the nations that actually does typically have that homegrown capability. But when you look at militarily smaller nations, those are the ones who will lean more on coming over to the US or even to Britain to train in those shared platforms.
Yeah, it's too bad Alan isn't here yet, or at all.
Well,
because I'm pretty sure that they did train practically all their Harrier jump jet pilots themselves.
Yeah, because the Harrier was a British-designed aircraft to begin with. It wasn't until after the Harrier had pretty much proven itself in its initial deployment with the Royal Navy, it was then that the U.S. military bought into it and actually let the Marines adopt it. So for a while there, it was the other way around, where we sent Marine pilots over to the UK to train.
And I also do believe that back when the Harrier was designed and started to be used by military, it was still England was still one of the biggest players on the military aircraft in terms of, I can't remember if it was bombers or fighters or just in general.
In general, I think more so bombers and transport craft. At least for the aircraft, is the bombers and transports. A lot of their fighting arm, aside from the Harrier, were actually joint venture and actually American aircraft. So before the Harrier, do you know what the primary aircraft that the Royal Navy used?
I do believe it was the F-4 Phantom.
Yep, the Phantom and the A-4 Skyhawk. Both American platforms.
F-4 Skyhawk?
Yeah. No, the F-4 Phantom and the A-4 Skyhawk.
Okay, okay. Hearing is an issue, apparently. Yeah, okay. Fair enough. A, what the hell? What's that designation for? Not surveillance.
A, attack.
Yeah, okay. Okay, but wouldn't that be fighter?
No.
F.
No,
Wouldn't that be the same here?
A
is ground targets?
A is ground attack, close air support. F is your fighter interceptor.
Oh man, What an idiot! Am I not the one completely head over heels in love with the A10, especially the sound of the thing?
Uh-huh.
A10. Ah, yeah, dumbass. Ugh. Okay, yeah. Never mind. Carry on. I'll go back to my eating, I think.
Sorry, messaging in the background. Wait, whoa, whoa, whoa. Wait, Christ Puncher, you're going to need to explain yourself on that one. What makes you think I'm part Canuck?
Eh?
Hey, remember, Jared?
Oh,
that is a strong compliment.
that.
That is a strong compliment.
Well, I can be rather civil and forgiving and apologetic when people
Unless
actually
it's Skid
fucking
Mark.
deserve it.
Well, hey, Jared. Speaking of fighter jets, have you seen where certain members of Canada's Parliament are pushing for the Avro Arrow to come back?
The Avro Arrow was great design for its time. For Canada to have its own homogenous aircraft like that again would be amazing, but they would have to update the Avro significantly. They can use it as a foundation and advance upon it, but sorry, the Arrow, gorgeous aircraft as it was, it ain't coming back, not in the form that a lot of people would think.
No, and that's one of the things when I started looking at some of the concepts for it now. It's rather interesting because it is going to use the American QAAM. Forgot the designation of that one, but it's going to use the short aim, quick maneuver anti-air missile that's going to be used on the F-35s.
Mm-hmm.
And it would be able to package more of those than the F-35 could.
Oh, wait. So, God's Auditor is apparently saying that I am more Canadian than Elizabeth Warren is Native American.
Well, I can prove my father-in-law is more Canadian than Elizabeth Warren is Native American.
Well, so the reason why I say that, from God's Auditor, I know Canuckistani when I hear one. Lucky for you, the Ministry of Canadian Affairs has determined you are 1/8 Canadian and therefore not Canadian.
Elizabeth Warren is Native American. I can put no. Yeah. Misunderstood.
So yeah, it's. Let's just say it has definitely been a time. Recently, both with what we have already started to speak about of people losing their goddamn minds, but also the work in the background of getting ever so closer to being able to launch the nonprofit that I've been working on the past couple months. And yes, this is shill time. I am reminding everyone that the link that is mostly showing up on the screen is in the description below, where I am at the funding limit before I can make everything with the new company, Veterans in Need, actually begin and be a thing. Originally, my goal was to have the funding in place and everything to begin offering services by the middle of January of this upcoming year. it does not look like I will be able to make that deadline due to the funding shortfall. However, as soon as funding is available is when services will begin. So the sooner the better. So link in the description, which the word is good has posted in the live chat as well. Share that shit around, get the visibility to it, let people know what's going on. There is also a clip from the November 22nd edition of VTW where I initially spoke about it that is available for sharing from the channel videos as well. I will be making a more polished video this upcoming week and posting it about midweek to give a more concise explanation of what I've come across, what the goal is, where we're at, and what the intention is going forward, and what is available to people who do want to be a part of it, either as a volunteer, an equity partner, or simply want to be a benefactor of the venture. All of which are needed, all of which would be greatly appreciated. So get out there, spread the word, share the links, and if anyone has any questions, my email, the business email for AT2 Productions, is available from the description below. And yes, the word is good. I completely agree. It is much more important to get it done than to just meet a deadline. It's one of those things I wanted to set a deadline to let people know the urgency and also the intent that I have for this. I'm not going to pull a flurf. I'm not going to be like one of those jackasses who, oh, I have this idea. I'm going to do it, but I just need money. No. The money is the limiting factor. Yes, you need funding to start a business, especially with the venture and scope that this is. But I want this to happen. And here's something funny. If someone wins the lotto and wants to completely fund it and be an equity partner and actually be an equal partner in it and actually jump on board of this drive, I am all for that.
But what happens if somebody just hits the lottery and wants to anonymously donate to completely fund it and stay away from it?
Oh, by doing that, they would still be considered an equity partner, but they could take the role of a silent partner, or just that initial donorship, which I have no problem with. That's the thing is, there are the multiple facets to this. To get the funding going, it is going to be a publicly funded venture, which can be funded either by individuals or companies. There will be an overhead for operations of the business, simply for the minimal staff that will be full-time, which, yes, I am one of those, because yes, I am not just going to start this and then be hands off. No. This is my baby. This is what I want to make happen. This is where my energy has been going the past little while off air. There really is a personal touch to it, a personal aspect to it on why this is my child, this is my brainchild, this is what I want to see come to fruition. Because I have been in the position, and I have seen other veterans be in the position where they are in need, they need help, and sometimes they need help in rapid fashion, and the available avenues for those aid programs either have strict criteria that the person doesn't always meet, or they simply don't have the funding to fully meet the need that the former service member has. And I wish to rectify that. It is my desire and goal to be that alternative option when all else fails. You still know you have something to fall back on, and you still have someone you can come to and rely on in your time of need. So, with that, hey, Blue Marble Science. is out in the chat. So, hey, Blue, I know you're a veteran. Why aren't you on the Discord server? Because guess what, people? For all the other veterans out there who are interested in joining us on these weekly talks, the easiest way to get on is go ahead, join the Discord server, announce yourself as being a certified veteran of any nation's military, and you will have the appropriate role where the join link to the panel is shared every week, roughly a half hour before we go live, sometimes a little less, sometimes a little earlier, depending on what's going on. Yes, Tech, do you have something to add?
No.
It's just I heard your mic kick up, and usually you do have something when that happens. So, who here saw the wonderful display of stupid that came from the nomination panel for Dumb Fuck of the Year?
Holy cow! I had a hard time holding my sobriety.
Didn't see the
Okay.
nominations.
All right.
Didn't see the nominations yet. So.
I've seen Without a Crystal Ball and some of her posting on Twitter, and I mean, that made me want to drink hot lead.
Oh.
The stupidity that he was putting forward. Okay, but I agree with Sean Hawkins.
How so?
Stupid, yes.
Oh, you mean
Dumb
Hufford?
fuckery. Oh, Sean Hufford. Sorry, Hawkins, I didn't mean to confuse the two of you. But yeah, I agree with Hufford. It's dumb fuckery to a minimal, not worthy of Dumb Fuck of the Year.
Well, here's the thing, though. That Katie Joy is her actions, from looking from the outside in, her actions quite literally have been, hey, look at me, cutting off my toe. Ow, why'd you cut off my toe?
I would have gone a different route, but yeah, toe's a good analogy. I would have used another part of her anatomy for that, though.
Well, keep in mind, starting fair, because when you really look at her behavior, all of her actions have been intentional. It wasn't, oh shit, I made a mistake. It was like, oh no, I'm choosing to do this. Oh shit, it was the wrong choice. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the wrong choice. You made the wrong choice. I'm not the one who did wrong. You did wrong. Katie, but here's your own words. That wasn't me. I was hacked, or it was doctored. Yeah.
Yeah, let me privatize my tweets today. As soon as she found out she was even mentioned on Dumb Fuck of the Year, her Twitter went private.
Yeah, it's amazing how that works. It's almost like people like, and see, here's the thing. She was right there alongside Kyle for a lot of the decisions and everything that he made. So a lot of what gets Kyle in the running also gets her in the running.
Yeah.
But this is where Kyle did one thing actually correctly. By shutting the fuck up and, in effect, disappearing, at least from the public realm. Where Kyle went further wrong is by disappearing completely in the background as well. So, Kyle half got it right. It's like, hey, I just stirred up this bunch of shit. Let me stop making it worse publicly. Katie apparently didn't get that part of the playbook.
There was a playbook?
I thought it was just a memo.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, even okay, and to GE's credit, and once Kyle vanished, GE went silent on the subject for the most part.
No, we'll simplify it. It was a pamphlet created by JM Truth.
Oh.
It was all the misspellings. That's why she got it wrong.
Wow.
Yeah, when you really go back, here's the thing, take an objective look at what she has done and said. And here's the difficult part. And this is where I actually will put her more towards the dumb fuck bit of it, because she's kept most of it off of YouTube. She has gone to other platforms to do this stupidity. But what she doesn't realize is that there are a lot of people who look at the shit on there too.
Yeah.
And then you have the wonderful the coup de grace that really brought my attention to make me look into what she was doing even further, where Kyle fucks off at the speed of sound. She realizes that, oh shit, Kyle has been lying. Let me go ahead and try to get on in front of this. So she makes that apology video. The apology video, that wasn't exactly an apology video, because she apologized to some of the viewers and some of her fans, but she didn't really apologize to Steve or anyone else who was directly affected by what took place. But she still tried to apologize and even admitted on there that Kyle had told her a bunch of stuff which turned out to be lies. Steve decides to download, mirror, and repost that video on an alternate channel. Katie removes her apology video. And then she puts a copyright claim in against the mirror and actually has a strike against that channel because of it. So if it was really a genuine apology and she wasn't trying to cover shit up, especially her own behavior, why would you do that? Yeah, that's exactly what I thought. There is no other reason to handle that situation in that way unless you are trying to erase the record of her having said the stuff that she did about what went on, because maybe she realized, oh shit, I could be held culpable for my portion of this. Well, guess what's happening? And yeah, so God's auditor had said, all I did was correct her that Steve reported it, not released it, nothing more. You can check on my Twitter. I was nice. And this was in response to the way that Katie Joy Paulson likes to block people and get rid of negative commentary against her. Because here's the thing. When she blocked me, this was right, this last time, it was right after the non-sex stuff blew up. And she was trying to defend Kyle's actions. To which I put towards her, following her own logic. Okay, Katie, we're going to be business partners. We're going to be 50-50 partners. Hell, we'll be 50-50 partners in this business venture. I will give you 85% of the profits, but I'm not letting you look at the books. Does that sound like a fair offer to you? Because if so, hot damn, let's sign the paperwork now. It was that sort of display of idiocy on what she was trying to say, on how Steve should just take the deal and take the money that was offered from Kyle, which was non-fucking existent. He should just take it, shut up, and move on. But when the same type of deal is put to her with the same blatant caveats of, oh, I'm going to say I'm going to give you this percentage, but I'm not going to give you a way to verify that you are getting paid appropriately as a 50-50 business partner, rather than realize how fucked up of a premise she had put forth, she blocked me for a final time. And Goddaughter says, "Yep, she straight up blocked me today for the conversation I had with her yesterday. The one Unirock was reading on the stream. I was nice. I just corrected her use of one word." Oh wow.
Cannot handle criticism.
Oh, there are a lot of people out there on on pretty much every side of every issue out there. There are people who cannot handle criticism. There are people out there who, rather than admit that they may have been wrong with a particular point, they will start out by doubling down, or some of them will just straight up going to blocking the person. And it happens. There are other people out there in the community too that when they have content out there that has demonstrably and knowingly false information there, it is like pulling teeth to get them to acknowledge that the information is false, and then even worse, to do something about it. Some of them who have out there have even claimed, "Oh, I'm going to do a correction. I'm going to fix that incorrect information." And months go by with all that they have done is simply removed one offending video with nothing to replace it, no explanation whatsoever. And there are people who make a habit of doing that, where when they are caught out and corrected on something, the evidence for it on their own channel disappears. But,
or they double down.
or some of them will initially double down, and then when they realize that they've painted themselves in a corner they can't get out of, then all of it disappears.
Unless you're Kent Hovind. He just keeps, gibberish after gibberish.
Well, to be fair, see, and this is why I give GE crap for losing to Hovind. Hovind's shtick, the information that he uses in his presentations, in his debates, has not been updated for going on 30 years. I don't even want to say that the last time he updated it is when he last did the presentations for his video series. No. It goes back before then is the last time that he updated anything in his presentations. Which is where, actually, you know what? I'm going to shill the shit out of this and announce it here too. Because in a matter of 2 weeks on Marvel Girls channel, we're having quite the debate.
Uh-oh.
And the debate topic will be, is evolution true or false? And take a wild guess who the two combatants on this topic are going to be.
Oh
God.
Oh,
I fear for anybody that my doctorates in my brain Hovind draws up against.
Ken Ham.
To be fair, I cannot take a dissertation seriously that starts with, "Hi, my name is Kent Hovind."
Just for reference, what did Lily's start with?
Nothing, just went right into it.
No, that's the competition. Third dissertations against each other. Who was the worst?
If Hovind's dissertation was written on construction paper with crayon, it would be more credible.
I have no idea how to write one, so I would probably do it better than him still.
With noodle art.
No, it's construction. It's construction paper with magazine cutouts. Get it right.
Now, hang on. So, guys, to be clear, in the live chat, one of the people who has been paying attention actually did get it right already, and fucking good on you, Christ Puncher. It is a debate about evolution on Marvel Girls channel between Kent Hovind and Conspiracy Cats.
Oh, poor Kent.
Conspiracy Cats.
And
Yeah.
Now the question is, will we get to hear before Conspiracy Cats speaks a word? Do we get to hear his intro music from his YouTube channel?
no,
Because
but
I just want I want Kent just to hear that once.
no. So here's the thing. It is my thought. It is my idea. My idea to be very simple, be very civil going into it, make sure everything's laid out and understood so the audience is aware of what's going on, which of course is going to be agreed to between them before we go on air. However, I am going to have a couple particular questions for Kent that I know is going to drive him out the door at the very end of it. So stay tuned for those. But if possible, towards the end, that is when we will play it. As a matter of fact, what I'm even thinking of is after they have their back and forth, and before we do potentially a short bit of questions from the audience, the first question from the audience will be, "Hey Ken, what do you have to say about the message that is shared in the following little ditty?" And then we play that Conspiracy Cat song.
And
Because even though
just have been listening to a couple of his videos beforehand.
and well, if Ken actually does his research, yes, it will be nothing new to him, which I think would be a great icebreaker to that portion of the show, that portion of the interaction. Because Kent has gone on record before to say that Flat Earth is fucking stupid. When Kent frickin' Hovind laughs at you and calls you an idiot for thinking the Earth is flat and trying to use the Bible to support the notion that the Earth is flat, something's wrong there, Bubba.
Yeah, I can't remember if he ever managed to get a flat earther to quote debate him unquote, but he has tried to get idiots on for that kind of discussion several times. I just don't follow him, so I don't know if he actually managed it. But
Yeah.
seriously though, Conspiracy Cats, I almost said it in his dialect. Conspiracy Cats, yeah, Conspiracy Cats. Conspiracy Cats and Kent Hovind?
Yep.
Who would have thought about that one?
Well, so
I'm guessing that what started it was Kent laughing at flat earthers, but well, how the hell did this thing start?
Well, the initial bit, I'm not sure what actually sparked Marvel Girl to get the idea, but she does
You have a mouth breather.
Well, yeah, as you wished. What do you expect? What? So
Hey, I'm having great orgasmic illusions about this debate already.
well, so anyways, so the reason that what was communicated to me from Marvel Girl when she got the idea, because she has actually been on a couple phone calls off air with Ken, so there is that bit of a bridge that has been built there. And when it comes to people that Hovind will willingly do a debate against, he wants someone that he can see as close to an intellectual peer as possible. So this is where Katz comes in, because as many people know, Katz is an educator in the UK. He has a master's degree. Does anyone want to take a guess what his master's thesis was on?
Evolution.
Not
Bing!
theology.
Evolution. So that being the topic that Kent really likes to go after, it was right up the alley for Katz to go ahead and be the one to go against him, because he actually has a legitimate degree on the topic, for one.
And not a diploma mill.
Yeah. And
I wonder, my question is that are we going to see Kent Hovind's gavel and his wacko Simon,
Oh, jeez.
SpongeBob?
God, I hope not. Because here's the thing. One of the things that I am going to tell Kent before we go live is, Kent, your attention should be directed solely towards those of us here on the panel. being myself as host and moderator and Conspiracy Cats, do not play up any points or any commentary to your in-house audience or the audience on the stream. Please keep your attention where it is required. Now, how much you want to bet he's not going to be too happy to hear that?
He'll complain that too many restrictions are in place.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. The restriction that goes towards him in that manner goes the same for Conspiracy Cats.
Oh, yeah, you got to make it equal.
Yeah.
And possibly even, I mean, okay, this is not some dumb ass. I mean, I don't think that Kent Hovind himself is, less is stupid.
No. Now, wait a second.
A lower intelligence. I don't think so, but still, I'm guessing that because he loves to ramble on, it would be a good thing maybe to have a safety word or something, specifically for saying
word.
no, you're going off topic or something like that.
Well, and that
Somebody
is
somebody just needs to borrow the phrase from Red Frederick, ice on the nipples.
No.
We'll stop that.
No. Hang on. Let's remember, we are actually the goal of this. The goal of that entire series on Marvel Girls channel is to show that, unlike a particular group of people out there, we can have civil discussions with people that we disagree with. So when it comes to me needing to interject and moderate because someone is going off the beaten path and down a rabbit hole that has nothing to do with the question that was asked, you got to remember that this is actually going to be a legitimate, actual, more formal debate where, each person will have their opportunity to give a presentation uninterrupted. At which point,
from the live chat there, the safety word should be pine cone. Or pine tree. No.
A pine cone. Yeah, pine cone.
Sorry to interrupt you.
Or
get it up before I forget it.
Or should it be elephant?
Oh, jeez.
Oh yeah.
But no, you got to do his way of saying water.
Well,
water.
Again, trying to maintain civility and actually show we can do things better, and that we actually, if we are going to hold a particular group of people to a certain standard, we are going to hold ourselves to the same standard. We are not going to be raging hypocrites about it. That is a main drive going on there. It is the reason.
The challenge will. Yeah, sorry. No, I'm just thinking that the challenge will then be when he starts becoming, I won't say childish, but becoming an idiot in that sense. Acting like an idiot or acting like a child. That should you give him the same back or
no.
stay. I can't speak today.
Stay civil.
Stay cool. Yeah, stay civil.
Staying civil. The same way that I have been with a number of people that I don't have a particular history with, that is my expectation. That is the standard I will be holding both Cats and Kent to. There is no need for snide commentary. There is no need to act like a petulant child, especially when you are of the age and claimed maturity of the people who are going to be debating the topic. There is no reason to behave in that fashion. I will not tolerate it from either of them. I have less of a concern of Cats going down that road as opposed to Kent. So that's where it'll be said to both of them. This is the standard. This is the expectation. This is what I will be holding both of you accountable towards. This type of behavior and sticking to the topics that are actually mentioned and answering the questions that are asked of you in a concise and direct manner.
Yeah, I mean, I know that he has gone off the rails in this manner on several occasions, as far as I can remember seeing or watching, but he has always been polite and cordial in the beginning. Of all the stuff I've seen where he talks to, or I don't want to use that word, that D word in this case.
Well, in discussions that
but
yeah, discussions that he has had to this point, and that's where I agree. Kent does start off nicely. It's making sure that he stays there. Or if he decides to go off the rails and go down that rabbit hole, we don't go along with him. And I'm actually looking forward to it because I think it will be an interesting turnout and actually an entertaining exchange between the two, because it would be nice to deal with someone who can actually articulate a point, even if they are saying a bunch of nothing. It'll just be a wonderful change of pace from the Flurfs.
Mm-hmm.
As long as you're
And
not-
yeah, I'm sure that I have never seen conspiracy cats in a debate situation except for on the non-sec, but I'm sure he'll be able to hold his own. But I would love to see him just take any of his past presentations at a discussion or debate, and just prepare every single point he makes. Just prepare a counter statement for every single thing, so he can just go shotgun every single time he puts something up, without delay. And see how I'm sure he will use his what is it, 50 slide long 50 slide show.
Yeah, something like that. And that's where this has been in the works in the background for a little bit of time now. So that's where I'm looking forward to seeing what Katz comes up with.
And also, very important idea I just got. Maybe not to say it on air, but something that I would love to see happen.
That would be interesting. However, warning, that
it's not flat Earth, I know.
Oh, no, I know. But no, word of warning, that person, and now that they are back within the continental U.S., their time available to do a lot of these things is going to be significantly less. So that's where we shall see what ends up happening with that channel once the relocation is completed and he figures out what his work schedule is actually going to be like.
Yeah, and also he still has a lot of sleeping to do. So yeah.
Ping.
Oh no, he's already caught up with that, and even then, because he's going to be in the only time zone that matters, it will be easier for him in that aspect. Again, it'll be a work scheduling question.
I say it's official business.
Heat Shield, you don't want to know what goes on in the dark room.
That's a nightmare.
I know what goes on in a dark room. When I was there last, I sniffed chemicals. Oh, sorry, is that a bug kill?
Well, wait.
Here?
Wait, so you're using the dark room for a different purpose than Christ Puncher? Because he said that he has a dark room, but it smells like loneliness and shame.
Remember, you can use the dark room for the pictures you take when you want to develop, they can be of many different items or things. I mean, you could, and then do something while you wait for. Oh, damn it! No, you don't have to wait really for developers to work. Damn it! No, not enough time for a jerk. I mean, for examining your work.
Okay, and so another announcement. We are definitely going to be off air within in about 2 hours here because we have movie night this week, and I have to set everything up so it actually goes live on time. Ish.
See, you're breaking with tradition. It's got to start at least a half hour late.
Oh hell no! Fuck you.
No, that's true. That's
No,
tradition
fuck
that Side
you.
Strike started.
No. The tradition that Strike started was going live between 5 and 15 minutes after the hour. Anything beyond that? Oh, hell no. Hell no. Even then, I actually plan on one night that I'm producing it just to mess with people, going live just before midnight.
Oh,
Because
and
why
without
not?
saying it, I mean, without letting everybody know that we're going live. Just waiting, hovering the mouse, over the.
It
Find out
all
how many
depends.
people are paying
When
attention.
people are ready to say something embarrassing, go.
It all depends on if we have Team Skeptic in there sharing one of his stories.
Oh.
Man, those are glorious. Those are glorious.
Best intro to a show ever.
Ever.
Especially some of the ones he has been talking about on those streams.
Skeptic needs to join us more. Just so we can get the best intros ever.
you need to borrow his dinger for the debate.
Hey, do any of you guys know the kids, the animated kids show called Dennis the Menace?
Yeah, what about it?
Yes.
Who has what do you call them? An old style alarm clock that he just breaks it every single morning, and just takes a new one from the nightstand. The Skeptic should do that. He should just buy a box of them.
Oh, you're talking.
He did already. I think he did already.
Well, here's the thing. When you are constantly getting pissed off to the point that you throw it against a wall, yeah, you tend to need to have a little more than that.
Do we need to get you a box of mice, Jared?
Let's see. No doxing here, but does he happen to live in a house, a freestanding house, or very thick walls?
No.
You get one of those that sucks, because he could just get one of those old style, Second World War air sirens, hand cranked. Well, maybe put a brake on it so it doesn't last for an hour. They do tend to ring out, so to speak, for quite a long time. It just wouldn't be the same if he went digital on that dinger.
Well, that's what he did initially for the videos, and it ended up getting a claim put against it because of cinema sins.
Yeah.
Although I do believe that it was what is it? Not, I can't remember. Creative Commons, wasn't it? Actually, I mean, I know that it was.
Well, Creative Commons is the channel network who actually owned it, but it was used on Cinema Sins and Cinema Wins.
Okay, so it was a free-to-use sound clip, but
technically no. While it was a standard sound, the sound itself that he used actually was the one designed and used initially on the Cinema Sins channel, but then grew to the alternate channels from the same content creators of Cinema Wins, TV Sins, and all that stuff. So there wasn't.
I understand the YouTube stuff correctly. If you are not for profit, you don't have your channel monetized or something stuff like that, you can use copyrighted stuff even without any problems.
Well, even if
to an extent,
even if you're monetized, you can use copyrighted material. However, the copyright holder reserves the right to monetize your work because you're using their copyrighted material. So there are a few videos here on my channel where there is shared copyright stuff simply because I don't feel like fighting with CBS too much. Even though everything we did was to the letter fair use, they are so fucking sue happy and so slow to actually do shit the right way. So to me, I recognize that that's a battle not worth fighting.
And some, for example, Disney, they are aggressive as all hell in protecting their stuff. They just have a bunch of very pricey lawyers, and they make sure that they just, not actually intend to sue, but just sue for an amount that nobody wants to even touch. I have heard stories about that.
So I'm going through the Discord server and making sure a few people have the proper roles. So, Blue, if you want to join us, you can actually go ahead and get the link and come on in whenever you like.
And we seem to have a stalker that I haven't talked to yet.
Which one?
Already. Maybe I have. Peter? You there, Peter?
Peter may have dropped out.
Oh yeah, I did. I wasn't looking at the list.
So where is Jay Brown tonight?
He is with family because taking care of things that matter more. He mentioned at the beginning of it that he was on hospital duty. There is a family member that is in the hospital right now that he is spending time with. That is where he is, and I do not expect him to show up. Yep. I don't even expect to see him in the live chat at this point. Alright, and now that that is all set up, let me go ahead and do this as well. Bing! Blue. And there we go. Now that I got that set, let's minimize that and get back to my regular screen.
Now back to your regularly scheduled shit.
Yeah, pretty much.
You should get a third monitor, man. Use an old tablet and use it some free software to connect it and use it as a. In fact, use it as a wireless. Monitor.
No. Again, as we were, as a couple of us were talking off air before we went live. Here's the thing. I make enough money. I am building the sweetest freaking platform to do everything that I want to and have been doing on here, but do it in a much better and more resource-friendly way, because I will admit my computer is underpowered for what I have been trying to do with it lately.
Well, actually, that's a good thing, because I have tried. I can't remember what the application is called now, but it's a long time ago since I last used it. By using my iPads, it's both on my Windows machine and my Mac OS. Mm-hmm. It does not impact the CPU on the computer at all. The GPU a tiny bit, but almost nothing.
Well, see,
so it's a good thing. So I mean, you could even set, force it to only update every, 15 FPS, for example. And that would be fine for text or, internal chat. And that kind of thing.
Well, so for those who are unaware and those, the new people to the channel and everything, last night I actually did a bit of an experiment, did a bit of a test to try to see if something would work.
Oh, there he is.
And so what I was doing is, so I've started doing some intermittent gameplay on the channel live, and my thought is, one of the perks of being a member of the channel is access to a particular segment of the Discord server where I will be playing games while in that voice chat that only patrons and channel members have access to. I had in my mind, hey, if I'm going to be doing that, let me use OBS and record it and see how that works, because there's been a couple games that my system does not like being streamed. So, for some reason, I'm putting it up to. I am putting up to the. Sorry. I'm putting it to the GPU that is the root cause of this. Because it's a small form factor computer and an integrated GPU instead of a dedicated expansion card, that is why OBS doesn't like streaming particular games. Because it's trying to run the computer GUI and that game at the same time and record it or stream it from OBS.
Okay, is it, what kind of PCI slots does it have?
Not much. It's an Asus Mini VC66. There is no room for expansion.
No, but I'm not a nerd in this area, but I do know that it is possible to use, if you have a standard size computer and you want a kick-ass, GPU that's or two of them, a daisy chained, or no, it's not daisy chained, paralleled. You can buy an expansion kit, so you can have the graphics cards externally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without introducing a bottleneck.
So no, I am aware of that. So this form factor that I have, the computer, the actual tower portion, is mounted to the back of a 24-inch HD monitor.
Oh, I'm sorry, I blanked out for a second. One more time.
The computer, I'm looking at my desk right now. I cannot see the tower because it is mounted behind a 24-inch HD monitor.
Don't tell me it's a compact.
No, Asus.
Oh yeah, sorry.
Yeah, it's an Asus, because here's the thing. When I got this computer, my usage plan was to join occasional hangouts and do schoolwork, other internet research, and basic processing stuff. I was not intending on creating videos, editing videos, rendering shit, or hosting as much as I have been, or even getting into the gameplay aspect that has come about recently. But
and you practically can't go wrong with Asus.
No,
I mean, I have never heard in all my online presence. I'll try that again because I fucked up. With all the videos here and there on the internet I've seen, and also with the friends and family around me, I have never ever heard anyone complain about a computer. Messing up or whatever it is, and it was an Asus. Never happened.
Yeah.
They're rugged as hell, and I mean the worst you could do was to buy an Acer, one of those micro computers, or their cheaper laptops. That's the worst thing you could ever do.
Yeah, I used to have,
but Asus, perfect.
Yeah, and that's the thing. For what if I was only doing the initial workload that I was intending, I wouldn't have any issues with my setup at all. But because of the increase and the change of what I'm doing, I am going to need a better system soon enough, and I quite frankly don't have the money for it at this point, so it's going to have to fucking wait.
Yeah, but
real quick.
Yeah, I have something offline for you later.
I
just remembered, but
real quick, let's get a mic check from Big Blue.
Hey guys.
Hey, we can hear you perfectly.
Hey, please don't tell me you're Navy.
No, I was Army Reserve actually.
Oh, good. Yeah. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. Good. We're way over. We have way too many Navy guys in here.
Too many Navy guys. That's okay. I like those guys.
I'm outnumbered regardless.
Yeah, even when we have everyone here, it's what, you and Alan?
Yeah.
At least you're not Coast Guard.
Oh God.
Oh, and now, you have to admit the puddle pirates are cute when they think they're Navy.
And no disrespect at all, especially for those people who are fishermen, and especially those who live in Alaska and are fishermen.
I know.
The coasties are badass.
Oh, they
Actually,
are.
I
To
do have
their
one.
helicopters anyway.
I do have one former coastie that I've been trying to get in here. Hasn't come yet. So
Hmm.
to be fair, however, he was a rescue diver. So
Oh,
So he was 6 foot. He broached that.
As coasties go, he was pretty high
Yeah.
up there as far as respect goes.
Well, and that's the thing is, I will admit, I make fun of them, but at the same time, we make fun of every other branch. I mean, it's part.
Of course.
It's in
You
the
gotta.
manual, in the basic training. It's
That-
you can't do without it. Period.
That's a tradition that goes back, God, forever. You wouldn't dare not make fun of your fellow servicemen, would you?
Oh no.
I would, of course.
Well, so there is a line, and you can tell whether someone is saying something to be an asshole or whether they're saying it to be a smartass. And we expect the smartass. As a matter of fact, when we see a former service member that we've never met before, but starts coming out with the snark, with the smartass responses, oh, that is just perfect, because it's like, okay, you want to dish it out, all right, and then the jibes go back and forth, and it's a built-in icebreaker.
Yeah,
It
it's in most of my experience anyway. It's the perfect icebreaker.
Well,
you just start finding, you're not Army, okay, but you're Navy, right? Okay, it's an Air Force. Yeah, just find just find out who the other person is not, and go.
Yeah, well, it's like, get a group of old salts, a bunch of former military together who, of any generation. One of the first questions is like, oh, what branch were you in? And as soon as that answer is done, the jokes start rolling out. Why? Because we have to. I mean, we have to deal with such a unique environment while we're serving that the only way to really cope with it and cope with the culture shock is to grow a thicker skin if you don't already have it, and realize that when it comes down to it, your life is limited time-wise no matter what. There's no sense in dwelling on it, and that makes a lot of the other shit just that much more hilarious.
And in most circumstances, across nations, it is universal too. There, I mean, you just get into it right away. There is no border segregation in that matter.
Oh yeah, well, isn't there an uninhabited island in the North Atlantic that the Scots and I think it's the Danish, but there are two nations who every few months, one of them goes there, plants their flag, and leaves a bottle of alcohol for the other ones to come pick up and enjoy as they leave their flag.
It does not ring a bell, to be honest.
No,
it's not the Faroe Islands, and it's certainly not Greenland.
No, but
So
there's a
what
little
would it be?
uninhabited island somewhere where I know it's two European nations where the whole shtick is like every few months the other
It's not
one shows
properly-
up.
What the hell? And where is it? Just approximately.
I want to say North Atlantic, between like Iceland and the British Isles.
I have never heard about this. Okay, yeah, I'm on a mission then.
Well, it sounds like it'd be fun, though.
Yeah, but that's the type of thing that goes on between branches of, especially when there's mutual respect between the nations, because it's just that is as the military, we have some of the toughest and shittiest jobs, and yet most important for a nation. Because let's be honest, and even in this day and age, if there were no military presence like there is, how difficult would it be to enforce your own nation's sovereignty and actually uphold your borders?
It'd be virtually impossible, I think.
Okay, so we just got a great super chat from Willie Merck for $1.99 US. Honestly, what do you guys have against the U.S. Air Force?
Everything.
Nothing. We love the wing nuts. Come on.
Oh, many of the memes that I have are poking fun at the Air Force, but hang, I'm going to find this and read it out. It is a comparison of all the of the main four military branches and relating them to essentially children of a divorce, and it will make complete sense when I find it and share it. You just have to give me a moment.
Oh, jeez. Maybe we should have them watch the was it the Man Short special D&D, the military edition from D&D.
Oh yeah, those are fucking hilarious too.
Yeah. I got a buddy that sends me all kinds of memes. He sent one recently. It was the Air Force. Maybe I think I got it from him. Maybe I saw it here online somewhere. Anyway, weapons cleaning day in the Air Force, and it's the air bottle spraying off the keyboard.
Jeez.
Compressed air on the keyboard.
Come on. Where is it?
Air Force guys are badass. I got a good friend that's a retired Air Force guy.
Let's look through. Okay, found it. So military branches explained. Army and Navy and Marines are all brothers in a family. Army is the oldest, and Mom and Dad made all their parenting mistakes with him. The Navy is the middle child. They're the explorers who left home and no one cared. The Marines are the youngest, whom Mom and Dad let do whatever they want, and they still have an inferiority complex due to their small size. Well, Mom and Dad got divorced once all the boys were grown. Mom got remarried to a rich guy and quickly gave birth to a fourth son, the Air Force. Now she loves him the most, showers him with the best toys, and buys him whatever he wants. When they go on vacation, they fly first class, stay in 5-star hotels, and enjoy the finest meals. The Air Force is spoiled rotten, and his 3 brothers have bitter resentment towards him for this. Finally, there's the Coast Guard. The Coast Guard is the rich stepdad's son from his first marriage, and none of the other brothers think or act like he's a part of the family. Gotta admit, that is arguably the best way to describe the interaction between the branches.
Because in tough times, the Navy brings the Coast Guard in, so it's okay.
Yeah.
And by the way, Glober Mom helped
yes.
us out there.
Okay.
It's called Hans Island.
Hans Island.
Yeah, that's the right.
Denmark
no,
and
Hans Island.
Hans
Island. Hans, yeah. And it is between. It's not even Danish because I mean there is an imaginary line between it through it, so that technically speaking, half of it is Canadian, half of it is what would I call it? Greenlandish. And by the way, Greenland is not Denmark. It is part of Denmark, and we are, it's under our wing, so to speak. Can't remember the specifics, but it's part of Denmark, but it is not Denmark itself.
Yeah.
But I didn't know about the liquor thing.
So, yeah, another super chat from Willie Merck for $4.99. I work maintenance with the Navy and Marines, and we all eat crap. 12-hour shifts, and it's all the same. Oh, no. I get you on that. It's just, when you look at the branches as a whole, when it comes to being deployed and going downrange, and especially the land-based deployments that the Navy and Marine aviation units do, yeah, everyone is in the same boat. Everyone is in the same suck. However, when you look at even just numbers, the Air Force dominates on development costs and actual developmental budget and operation budget. While they have felt a pinch in recent years, they haven't felt a pinch nearly to the same extent that other branches have. Also, when you look at a quality of life standard between amenities available on an Air Force base versus a Marine or Naval Air Station, it's night and day. When I was on Okinawa, the main place that my then wife and I would go to get something to eat, with where we were at, we could either go out the gate and to the left and go down to the Marine Corps base, which was only about 5 minutes away, or we could go 10 minutes away in the other direction to Kadena, to the Air Force base. Where do you think we went each time? We went to Kadena.
Air Force Base.
Yeah, we went to Kadena because they had the better facilities and they had the better setup. So when you really look at it in that aspect, each branch has their purpose, each branch has their role and their job, and yeah, we all have to deal with the suck in some way or another. But when you look at where certain branches prioritize different things, I will admit there is two reasons why I picked the Navy over the Air Force when I initially joined. And
It can't be the food.
nope,
Advancement's one thing.
that was one. Because I knew I could make rank faster in the Navy than I would have been able to in the Air Force.
Yeah, they have a say in the Air Force. In order to advance, someone has to die or retire.
Maybe in the reserves. I don't know about active duty though.
And then the other reason why I picked the Navy over the Air Force is because I knew with going in, picking the rate that I did, when I deployed, I was going to be on an aircraft carrier. And I actually enjoyed being out in the water. So it's one of those, if I'm going to deploy, do I want to deploy to a Dust Bowl? Or do I want to be on the water? So there was a little bit of quality of life in that aspect. I took a hit on the home side quality of life for a relatively slightly better quality of life during the deployed aspect. And then faster in advancement as well.
Get a lot of politicking in the Air Force too. So
Yeah. Well, you get that as you go higher in the ranks in the Navy as well, which is why with a lot of the changes that were going on in 2007, 2008, I was like, nope, I'm out.
it's not like subbreeds, because as soon as we submerged, pretty much there was very little to any politicking at all. As soon as anybody had to deal with any politicking, it was usually the CO with whoever the
Yeah,
carrier group the commander was.
Well, and even then, on your side of it, when you're looking at, it was easier to have a genuine evaluation period on a smaller command like that. Because think about it, my division alone was over 300 people. Just my division, not even my entire department. Just my division on the Kitty Hawk was double the crew of your boat.
Oh yeah. My entire division was 7 people.
My division was 250, and we were still understaffed.
Yeah. So that's where, and also you have to admit, Willie Merck, the Air Force was officially born in 1947, if I remember correctly, right? National Defense Act?
Yep, that's right.
And prior to that, they were the Army Air Corps. So while the initial generations of the Air Force still carried over a lot of that Army mentality, they really became their own thing, probably about the mid-50s. And yeah, can still give them shit, can still point and laugh, but at the same time, when you want to gain air dominance over a battlefield, the combination of the F-15 and the FA-18 that is currently flying for the Navy, you ain't getting past that. And then add in the other aircraft that we have at play.
The A-10.
In fact, here's what
You're not-
42. The entire weapons department was 34 people. That's including the officers.
Oh, jeez.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
We were the second largest department on the ship.
Yeah, just the E6 and below of IM3 was right around the 300 mark, and that's before even getting into the khakis, before even counting
that's
the
including
chiefs.
Chiefs, officers, everything. So the only department larger than us was engineering. So they were about half the crew, really.
Well, when you look at it, I mean, how much of an admin department in OA do you need on a sub? What, 3 people?
Let's see. The admin department was the 4 yeomen and the XO, because he acted as the admin department head as well as the executive officer. He had both duties.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so 2 people. I was giving an extra one. And because
1, 2, 3, 4.
well, and because you guys
5
also
people total. 6 actually. I forgot to say 6.
Hey, Flight Path. Yeah, when you really look at it, and then Blue for the what segment of the reserves were you in? Mechanized, Signal Corps, what?
No, that was in medical corps.
Ah, okay.
Another syringe warrior.
Oh,
Yeah,
another
you
special
betcha.
breed.
You
Yeah, I
betcha.
was hoping Signal because I'm still feeling lonely here.
I was an X-ray technician, so that was just slightly more interesting, I suppose.
Yeah.
At least I
Well,
wasn't
and
driving.
messing around with high voltage too.
Yeah, actually, that is pretty high voltage.
Yeah, well, nothing like what Alan toyed with, I imagine, but still, he was radar.
I don't know. Those
Yeah,
X-ray machines go up to about 100 kV.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing. That's nothing compared to a microwave long-range radar, I think,
Yeah, you're right.
or for that matter, an extremely low frequency transmitter that transmit about what 500,000 watts. The voltage, on the end of a dipole of that kind of frequency, yeah, well, not necessarily just the frequency, but it does tend to get pretty high.
You don't have to touch it; just get in the vicinity.
Yeah. And I have, by mistake, touched my own antenna from time to time to. while
that was calling out
Phrasing.
now.
We don't hear about you touching your own antenna, Bo.
Wow.
while sending images using digital
Oh my God.
SSTV. Yeah, it kind of hurts, and that's only 10,000 volts more or less
See a doctor.
on a 100 watts dipole antenna.
So are you saying it was a bare wire whip antenna you were playing with?
Whip. It was a center fed. No, that doesn't
You
work.
might want to consult a
Hey,
doctor
I
about
played. I played with those at 102 inches before. I've trimmed them down to 96 inches so that they don't work on my handband. But yeah, I mean, the most fun I ever had with a bare wire whip antenna was actually going through Whataburger, placing my order before I ever got to their speaker where they could tell me, "Thank you for coming to Whataburger. How may we help you?" I could sit in the
Hey.
Oh,
parking lot and order food.
Don't you mean?
Well, yeah,
Don't
but
you mean?
the thing
No,
is
no, wait,
that
that's McDonald's.
I was driving about 150 watts on the CD band, and on the ham bands I was driving a little bit more, but they could hear me plain as day if I wasn't on the sideband.
Yeah, but
And it
seriously
didn't matter
though,
what channel. I mean, and I wouldn't even have to be in the order line. I would just be like, yeah, this is Curtis out in the parking lot.
but seriously though, real radio nerds divide by 300, and not 472.
Yep.
It's so much easier. Or just factor in the quarter watt and just go 75 instead. But it's so much easier. I mean, you do call the different bands X meters, don't you? So why not just use it for the calculations too?
Of course.
That would make too much sense sometimes, though. And
Oh, yeah.
we had
how many nations do use it? Oh yeah, the
most of them.
One, 3 nations.
So we have another super chat coming in, another $4.99 from Willie Merck. Copy. I guess being on the flight line for so many years for F-15s, the older the jet, the less the budget, and the longer the hours. We hated the F-22 bases. Oh, I understand the pain on that, because the main reason why the F-14 got retired is because she was a maintenance hog. Beautiful aircraft, still highly effective in the mid-2000s when it was still flying at the end of her career. But the number of maintenance hours per flight hour just got to be cost prohibitive. And then you had the NDI inspections starting to finally show fatigue in a number of the titanium air boxes, the wing box. And they're like, well, we can either repair one of these or buy 2 new Super Hornets.
Yeah, I find it kind of laughable that you're talking about an airplane becoming too cost prohibitive to keep it on the wings, when you still use well, no, not you. The Air Force still uses the U-2 spy plane. You have and it's pretty much the toughest plane to fly, as I'm told. But it's you have satellites.
Well,
you don't need a U-2, and that is one of the most expensive airplanes as well, I think.
It is, but at the same time, they're only flying a couple of them, and actually a couple of them have been loaned out to NOAA and NASA for high altitude research. Not even their initial planning.
Yeah, they're still used, but it's very sparingly compared to
as far as I know, NASA owns a U-2.
Yeah.
They don't loan it.
Well, no. So they bought 2 of them, and they also do testing on another couple that are effectively on loan from the Air Force. But the ones for the Air Force, they mainly do that so they can keep them flying and keeping repaired, because where the U-2 is most used now is when satellite intelligence can't get to where they need to in time.
Oh yeah, and they can do it.
Yeah, that's where the airborne platform still comes in and has its method. Right. But with the increase and advancement in surface-to-air missile and other area denial platforms have come, it is really limited where they can and will use a platform like that.
Yeah, as far as I know, it's not in-air refuelable, and they cannot circumnavigate the globe, can they?
No.
I don't think they can.
No.
Well, hey guys, I'm about to lose my battery on the phone. I'll catch y'all in about an hour if I can get back in.
All right, later.
See ya.
All right, bye.
And let's see, the Global Hawk is discontinued now as well, isn't it? And it's also a slow flyer.
I believe so.
They can't use that either. Yeah.
Well,
so they can't use that again.
Well, and even then, the Global Hawk was an early UAV, and they've only gotten better with efficiency since. So it's being
countermeasures. I would imagine that the current ones do.
Yeah,
The ones that replace the Global Hawk, that is.
Yeah, well, there's a lot. So a lot of the UAVs do fall under the Air Force realm of things. So my firsthand knowledge of them is very sparing to non-existent. Now, granted, the Navy has had their own UAV program for a while that actually,
Trident, yeah.
well, not just that. Does anyone want to take
Just doesn't work out.
take a guess where the UAV was actually utilized by the Navy during the 80s? I think it might surprise some of you.
Let's see. I'm thinking about something, but it's not the. It wasn't a
Grenada?
UAS.
Well, it actually was part of Grenada, but what platform utilized them?
Oh, okay. Don't know.
B-21?
Nope.
Nah.
Nope.
No, that was a stealth bomber, not a surveillance craft. I'm drawing a blank there.
So the word is good out in the live chat actually got it right. They were, when they brought the Iowa class back, they utilized one of the first true first generation UAVs as the spotter aircraft. So the
Oh, you're talking about the Pioneer. Right?
The Pioneer aircraft, the Pioneer UAV. It was the they used it as the artillery spotter for the battleships.
I forgot about that thing.
Well, because think about it. How else would they think back to, say, World War II, when they were doing a naval bombardment and needed to correct when they were doing a shore bombardment? How did they have to do it then? The battleships actually had their own float plane that would fly.
What had like 4 float planes? I think they carried. The cruisers carried 2, I believe.
Yeah. And so they actually replaced that with a UAV when they modernized the Iowas and brought them back in the 80s.
So, okay, how big is that thing?
Oh, it was.
For example, compare it to the Spurwer, the one that was developed by the French.
So the spotter UAV Pioneer, if I remember correctly, wingtip to wingtip was just under 8 foot and no.
About 5.2 meters there for you, Bo.
Okay, so it's okay. It sounds like it's slightly larger than the Spurwer. We tried to use it. The Danish Defense Department. We called it the Tornfalk. Don't know what that bird is called in English, but it was a crap airplane. For us, it constantly, broke down and so on. But the French, they didn't have any problems with it at all, because they didn't. It was their own design. It worked constantly, but the Danish Defense Department wanted it to fit very, very specific roles, and that messed it up, of course. Instead of just taking the standard package.
Yeah.
So we spent 470 million Danish dollars on it, and we sold it to Canada for 40 million dollars later. Whoops. Nice.
Yeah. So from Flight Path out in the live chat, some status updates for you on the flight training. Currently looks like it will start in mid to late January. Currently no available flight instructors, but my PC is built and I'll be messing with some flight simulator stuff to post on the channel in the meantime. So for those who don't know, Flight Path is starting up the channel where the primary purpose is to actually show what goes into becoming a licensed pilot from a civilian standpoint. So the classes that you go through, the material you cover, all of that. But in the meantime, before those classes actually start up, he's going to be doing, I'm guessing, are you going to be doing Flight Sim X? Let's.
I guess it would be Flight Sim X or X Plane would be my
Yeah,
guess.
one of the two. Yeah, trying to figure out which one because, so here's the thing: if someone wants to actually share this out and actually post it in message to Air Force Proud 95, his stuff is hilarious, and I would love having him on the panel anytime to make someone like Lord Burns here feel better.
Aha.
Both. Nice. Yeah, and actually, one of the more recent videos I've seen from Air Force Proud, he actually got to go out to Seattle to Microsoft's launch of the newest version of Flight Sim.
Oh, yeah, that thing's wild.
Yeah, well, and on top of that, he actually got into the co-pilot seat and went around and did an aerial tour of the Seattle area. Reminded me a lot of places that I used to be happy to not spend too much time at. And a new super chat from Willie Merck for $10.99. Here's some beer money. Oh, thank you, because I have a feeling I'm going to need it in a couple hours.
Yeah, Seattle's not nearly far enough away from Hanford, is it? I don't know if you can get far enough away from Hanford.
Well, for me right now, if I were to hop on a plane and go towards Seattle, it would take about 5.5 hour flight, if I remember right.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm on the other side of the country, thankfully.
Yeah, me too. No problem for me. I just got Oak Ridge right up the street. Sort of take your pick, huh?
Well, see, I'm stuck in between Boston and New York City, so...
Well, at least you don't call it Boston.
He's not close enough to Boston to have a car.
Nah.
I just posted a link to that ugly UAV I was talking about earlier in VTW crew chat. It was ugly as hell, and it was slow, and kind of noisy.
But did it get the job done?
Nah, not the Danish version, because, they wanted to do something special, so they modded it, and it went bad.
Yeah, the Pioneer wasn't a very eloquent-looking UAV either, so...
No. And its ailerons were in the front. I can't remember what that type of design is called, but it's just ugly.
Well, it's called a canard.
Canards.
Yeah,
canard, yeah. With a V tail fins, and four-bladed. Well, technically four-bladed, but just two-bladed wooden props. In fact, on the back, so it's a pusher. It was slow, very stable, and it didn't make all that much noise, but it didn't really, it couldn't really fly very high. And our version did not have a satellite link, so they had to use damn it,
INS and Lorian, and
but they had to use line of sight.
Oof.
That's the worst part.
No.
Well, no, I mean, they didn't have to look at it, but they had to have line of sight for the remote control and return signal and telemetry.
Okay, folks.
I can't even remember if they made it to... No, wait, they did make it... Yeah, they did end up installing thermal imagers on that thing, because I do remember in 97, when I was a conscript, that they did use it every now and then when we were on night maneuvers. It was, buzzing around overhead. So they did have it back then, but they just didn't use it all that much. but we could constantly hear it buzzing. I mean, we couldn't see it, but just no. It was. They didn't have enough. I don't think they had powerful enough optics on it. Certainly not. Certainly not for the day sight camera to get to a high enough altitude for us not to be able to hear it. Again, we bought it for $470 and sold it for $40 to Canada, without even having to convert that into American dollars. That explains a lot.
And even then, you figure using it for as long as you did, and then it's kind of like a car. It has depreciation. I mean, as soon as you take ownership of it, you lose like half of its value.
Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I just did it just for the hell of it. Hang on. Let me just do the right number of zeros here. Ouch. Yeah, $69.6 million is what we bought it for. And but sold it off for $6
for $5 million. Yeah. And you guys had it for how long? And you guys had it for how long?
I'm not sure. It didn't really say on the Wikipedia page, I think. Hang on, let me just look at it again here. There's not much information about it at all. It was discontinued here on December 14th, 2005. But it doesn't say when we
initially bought it.
Yeah. Like I said, there is almost nothing on it. Doesn't even say who used it, except for the DOD, so to speak.
It's always interesting.
Also, the U.S. has blown more on prototypes than that. So.
Oh God. And also have wasted that much on a platform to the point where they have to use it anyways just to justify it. And no, I'm not talking about the Bradley at all. No, not the Bradley. Which, by the way, which here's the thing: if the development and implementation of a weapons platform is so bad and so comical that all they have to do is write a movie from the actual history of it without injecting their own humor or twist to it and have it be fucking hilarious, it was a bad development process to begin with. But oh wait, that's what happened. So, what was the name of that movie? The Pentagon Wars, I believe it was, or something like that. It starred. There were actually a lot of people in that movie. It had Carrie Elways. Who else? Google to the rescue. The cast was Kelsey Grammer, Carrie Elways, Richard Benjamin, John C. McGinley, Viola Davis, Richard Schiff, Olympia Dukakis, Tom Wright, Clifton Powell, Dewey Weber, J.C. McKenzie. Who else here is that? Sam Anderson. But yeah, Pentagon Wars from 1998. That it was initially a TV movie, but it was still so hilarious because the scripting of it was just pretty much, wait a minute, the steps that they took in designing and then finally building the Bradley was what? But yeah, so that's where every branch has their quintessential movie or movies that kind of show people what it was really like being in. Now, I would have to say for the Navy side, it's a combination McHale's Navy, Down Periscope, and a little bit of Top Gun. Little bit.
Not Top Gun. Hot Shots.
Yes.
The parody of it.
Yes. Hot Shots. There we go. But when it comes to the Army, I mean...
Watch out, since Korea, this has been Corningware.
Well, so, and this is where I will have to defer to Blue a little bit. When it comes to the Army, at least the U.S. Army, would you say that Sergeant Bilko was a pretty good representation?
I would say, actually, yeah.
Oh, that movie with the hustling, they were hustling on the base and that kind
Not too far off. There was always some game afoot.
Yeah.
Well,
I like that one.
Well, and then while Stripes was a funny movie, no way in hell is that level of idiocy and comedic value would happen. No.
You know what's interesting about Down Periscope, though? There were several exercises where we were playing the enemy. And since seeing Down Periscope, this will sound familiar to you. Or we were playing the enemy, and we would get like a series of instructions that we were supposed to follow that came across to the whole battle group doing the exercise. But then we get another set of secret instructions that basically tell us to ignore the instructions that were in the...
Oh, nice. Did those instructions just reference Down Periscope and instructed you to
but
watch
there's
it?
tons of time we were basically told to ignore the official instructions and do
this.
Yeah.
Well, because that's the thing is, by sending out that initial message blast of, hey, by the way, sub forces for this exercise, you're going to operate in this grid. Well, they just gave an advantage to the surface fleet that's going to be trying to find them.
Oh, yeah.
And
Well, as an example, because like one of them, that's exactly how it worked. Because at the beginning, because we were given a grid, we were supposed to operate it in the official instructions, but then taking away that grid in our secret instructions. And you better believe at the very beginning of the battle, of the when the exercise was supposed to start, the minute it was supposed to start, immediately get a line of destroyers and cruisers at the north side of that grid going south, actively pinging, and a line of helicopters down at the south of that grid dipping sonar going north.
In other words, a bullshit exercise.
Yeah.
If that was the case.
Because if we were following that thing, well, yeah, we would have to avoid all that. I mean, if we were not allowed to leave that grid, we didn't have any place to go. So, but
and the standard Navy grid size would be what?
It varies. There's not really a standard size. It's
okay.
defined by lat and longe coordinates.
Okay.
Yeah, they pretty much draft a box. Okay, engagement area is going to be this.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it could be something that's like, it could be like 30, 40 miles wide, 30, 40 miles tall. I mean, it could be 100 miles wide. Usually depends on how much stuff they're doing in the exercise. And so usually the bigger the exercise, the bigger the grid.
Yeah,
it's never good, and it's always a bad idea to for the simulated enemy or combatant. We're supposed to say to give them boundaries or force them to use the standards that they have been taught for years and years. That's why I always personally loved being the simulated enemy or combatant in an exercise, because we get to
you get more free reign. Yeah,
and not use standard tactics, because that would just make it way too easy for the other guys to win.
Yeah. Well, it happens that before, because it's like one time, like for example, we were doing a surface at a specified time, at a specified coordinate. It was part of an operation thing. And like, there's this helicopter waiting for us, this thing, and they're like going, aha, gotcha. And we're like, yeah, you had plans that told you where we would be when.
Yeah. Ooh, I wonder if you could, if on a,
Great,
on a
congratulations, you can fucking read. I mean, what?
I wonder if you on a sub, especially on a nuke, I don't think you could do it there, but you know, if it was a diesel sub, if it was possible to you know, mess around with the motors and the engines as well, so they would sound completely different, just to try and throw the sonar operators off. I wonder if that would even be possible.
Well, are you talking about like what they did in Down Periscope, where they surfaced, ran on one screw to make themselves sound like a trawler?
Yeah, so yeah, stuff like that, or yeah, you know, yeah, just take out a couple of pistons or cylinders, sorry, so and run at a higher RPM, or you know, I don't know about how this stuff works, but you know, deliberately make it sound as different as possible to standard.
Well, for the nuke boats, I would suspect it would be rather prohibitive, given just the way the power plant is laid out. But when you look at the surface combatants, they couldn't really manipulate things much in that way. But what they could do is on the electrical countermeasure methodology, we actually had what were called river conditions, where certain radiative systems could or could not be operated depending on which profile they were trying to set up as. Like if we wanted to make the carrier from a radiated standpoint disappear, we weren't allowed to do any active testing in my shop. We could do support equipment type of testing, but we could not actively test any of the radios. So even transmitting into a dummy load, we weren't allowed to do that at all.
Okay. I mean, I could, in case you don't know, there's this thing called a bass kicker. Some you know, some drummers use it. They mount it on their seat. You could also buy it for if you have a home theater. You can mount it on your chairs. Mm-hmm. It's basically a speaker, but instead of a speaker cone, it's just a weight, a mass that is vibrated instead. It's a vibrator, basically. You could, yeah, I know. You could, I mean, I'm sure you could mount those, you know, a lot of those to the bulkhead for that kind of thing, and just, you know, make yourself sound like I don't know, an Akula class and something, or yeah, a Russian trawler or whatever.
Most
just
of our
literally simulate it. Just literally simulate.
Yeah, there's very little you can do about changing because our signature and anything like that. Just because, like on a modern nuke sub, most of the noise that they're producing, I mean, there's very little of it, but most noise is the little bit of cavitation at the leading edge of the screws, and whatever little bit of plant noise is coming through, you know, getting transmitted through the. So.
Yeah, but I'm sure that there would be, you know, a decent amount of equipment if you were supposed to be the enemy and nothing else during this whole mission. There would be equipment that you didn't really need, that you could, you know, take out of the boat.
Well, we would
take the shocks as well, and then, you know, mount, you know, those linear actuators, which is what they actually are.
Well, there's things that
motor, and just mount them directly to the hull without, you know, welding or modifying anything.
Most of our stuff was just keeping as little sound transmitting outside the boat as possible. So I mean, everything was on, you know, auto dampening and mounting systems. All the decks were floating. You could, you know, probably the most noisiest thing in the reactor plant itself was the circulation pumps, the cooling pumps.
But that's why I said you could just, you know, unmount equipment and take the shocks off as well.
You could shut the, you know, turn those off. You can go natural circulation. You can go reduced frequency circulation, which is more like what would be used when you're trying to be quiet.
they are PWM controlled circulation pumps.
Sort of.
Usually?
I mean, call it that.
Well, I'm okay.
The speed of the pumps can be controlled. Yes.
Yeah, okay, that's not what I mean. I don't. I'm thinking that they are BLDC motors and not, standard old school motors.
But yeah, the speeds could be controlled. So.
Yeah, but there's different ways of controlling the speed of a motor.
So. I don't know exactly the how they were controlled. So I just know they were controlled.
And you
we had to learn all the ship systems, but it didn't get that detailed.
Nah.
Yeah, pretty much you needed to know enough to respond to a casualty event.
Yeah.
I could diagram the entire reactor.
What I'm talking about is if you, for example, if you have a low-cost lathe that you can choose between on and off, and maybe if you were lucky, you had a speed controller that basically just chopped the high and low peaks of the alternating current, and that was it. And that means that the lower you get, the lower the speed you get, the less power that motor produces as well. But if you use a high frequency controller instead, you still have the full speed, the full strength of the motor throughout the whole range, and you can use whatever frequency you wanted. And thereby making it sound different.
Yeah, there was a law. There was like kind of a sweet spot where.
Yeah, you find the place where it resonates the least.
Right, exactly.
Based on the temperature of the water and the depth, and I don't know how many people are sleeping or farting or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, variable frequency drives are.
Yeah, VFDs.
Exactly.
Are pretty handy for three-phase induction motors. They work perfectly.
And there were six of those pumps too in our, and that's just in my little boat.
Yeah.
Well, I'm impressed.
3 per side.
An American that knows about 3-phase.
Yeah.
And not 2-phase 180 degree. Oh wow.
No. You gotta remember, power generation. We do that shit on 3-phase. Delta or Y depends on what you're actually going to use it for. The typical preferred input that we had for the battery backup systems that I used to support were most of them were actually initially spec'd out as 3-phase 480, preferably a Y connection.
Ship service was 3-phase though.
Yeah, you want the Y connections so you can have that ground.
In fact, I had a 3-phase in my list of equipment that I had to maintain. One of them ran off the 3-phase because I think I told you we had those Hughes aircraft manufactured consoles that ran off aviation AC.
Oh, so 400 hertz.
400 hertz, and we had solid state freak converters that took the 3-phase ship service power and converted it to 120 volt 400 hertz.
I mean, my first experience with the 400 hertz was when I bought my Rigol scope. It has universal voltage, but it also accepts 400 hertz. That's the first time I saw that. It's just, what the fuck?
Used a lot in aircraft.
Hey,
that's
50
standard aircraft.
and 60, fine, but 400? What the hell?
No,
that's the first time I ever noticed that in civilian equipment.
Standard for aircraft, always has been, just because you can make the transformers so much lighter.
Yeah. Except for
motors,
Russia, they have they have a different voltage, I believe. The Russian Air Force and whatnot.
Oh, who knows what those guys do. But.
No, it's just when we last had our air show here, I noticed, an external power socket that looked really weird to me, so I get interested, right? So I start looking at it, and there was no information about it. So I got hold of the flight engineer that was, I think it was a rescue helicopter or something, and he couldn't really tell me about it, but it was not 400 hertz. That he told me. It was in what do you call it? You couldn't use it on standard NATO power connections. They would use an adapter for it.
I have no idea what they used.
This plug had both 2 or 3 phase, can't remember, but also DC, about 90 volts or something. I think he said 90 volts DC.
Oh, 90 volts 90 volts DC is a small system.
Yeah, but it was an old, an old helicopter, and I don't think they ever used the DC. Probably only strictly the AC stuff.
Oh, well, depending on what they had in there, there's some stuff that is going to run on the DC. So part of the ICS system will do it. Some of the instrument panels also will as well for basic stuff. But here's something to think about when you want to compare a DC system to an AC system. So your typical 480 volt 3-phase AC power backup system is, in order to generate that AC voltage on the output, your DC bus needs to be almost 800 volts.
Yeah, 672 minimum.
Yeah, but to have a usable backup bank, you then oversize it from there. Because our 208 and 240 output systems, it was a 630 threshold that we had for a usable DC bus.
Well, when going from AC to DC and bridge rectifiers and all that crap, I don't know. You can use times 1.41 on both 50 and 60 hertz, basically, but on 400 hertz,
same thing.
How would you compensate for the RMS?
It's exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same.
Is it?
Yeah.
Doesn't make any difference.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, your main difference on the frequency is just the timing of your triggering. As long as you're using a rectifier that can handle switching at that rate, you're fine.
Well, it's nothing. To a standard, just a standard consumer electronics Schottky diode, not a problem at all. And instead of that, you could use an active rectifier as well, and then you could go up to several gigahertz if you wanted.
Yeah, and again, it all depends on what you're utilizing the system for and everything. So most of my power backup experience and everything is just for that. It's facility power, not aircraft power. So we were here in the US, we were across the board 60 hertz setups, and the main issue was, what input are we getting from utility? What's our input from the generator? And what is the desired load output that we want, and then spec the system off of that.
Yeah, and desired noise level, or no, sorry, the threshold on which you would have
runtime
noise generators for that.
Well, no, so the noise. So when you're looking at a battery backup system, an emergency power setup, noise is really irrelevant, because the main system, the main part of that entire system that I worked on was the UPS, was the actual heart of it. So all of them, you were getting a clean output. The only time you're not getting a clean output from a UPS is if you're in what's called a bypass mode, which means it's taking its input and it's just shooting it right back to right through to your output. If you're getting no cleanup of the signal, you're getting no battery backup availability. Just straight in, straight out. That is your dirty power out. Everything else, every other mode of operation where the UPS is providing an output, you are getting a clean output.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I'm thinking, I'm sure that some equipment wouldn't care about. Sorry,
Oh,
I'm trying to.
yeah. So like it.
Most equipments wouldn't produce any
Well, yeah. So you have
extraordinary
your
power surges.
well not so
But
okay. So now looking at the load characteristics, that's where you're really going to get into it, where you need to recognize, are you going to have an inductive load or a reactive load, and that really depends on the equipment that they are looking to protect and continuously provide power for. If you're looking at industrial type applications and motors, which does include HVAC systems, you are going to get back feed from that. For you are going to get a feedback from those sorts of systems that you do have to account for, and that's where having your power system appropriately oversized for growth and that overrun on initial startups and kickups and everything is key. However, if you're going to be just feeding a computer farm and the
that's not a big
HVA,
problem,
yeah, and if the HVAC is on a separate power circuit, then you're not so worried about how the load is going to react going back, because it's going to be a fairly constant load. However, what you are going to have to be crucial of, at least from my standpoint, conveying to the end user, to the customer, is when you are putting these systems into the rack and actually plugging them in, make sure you are sharing the load between your three phases.
Yeah, that's why you always need active load sharing switches for backup systems. Well, power backup.
You really, really, really don't want to be hooking motor loads to UPS systems if you can avoid it.
Yeah, you want those mainlined off the generator.
Yeah, let them run off.
You would have to.
It's.
I mean, if you had, you would have to need to have, a controller for it, so that the UPS the backup power system would be connected to the motor controller, so you could do a controlled startup, I would guess.
Yeah.
Or at least have power conditioners connected between them.
Early in my career, Jared, I worked for a company named Exide. And I worked for the electronics division over in Raleigh, North Carolina, and so having been heavily involved in designing a bunch of UPS systems, I know what you're talking about.
Well, and that's actually when. So I was with Schneider Electric for a while. Actually, the official name when I was hired on was still APC, American Power Conversions.
Right.
And the part of the job that I had when I was with them that I enjoyed really was getting a project and actually reviewing what the sales engineer spec'd out, and then talking with the customers like, okay, what are you looking at? What are you actually looking at for your growth over the next 5 to 10 years? Are you looking at going virtual and trimming back your load for a little bit and then growing from there? What's the whole story? And then really tweaking it as needed from there, or being able to let them know, no, everything looks good from this side of it. Here's what you're going to need to start planning now for when it is actually installed and you're getting ready to go live, and actually being able to bridge that knowledge gap from the design and engineering side, and then also being there for the physical installation, but also my experience before I joined the Navy of dealing with data center stuff, and then being able to communicate to them, okay, here's how you're going to want to handle the power for your servers, and by the way, here's this monitoring functionality you're getting that is specific to this power setup that you have.
And here I thought you were going to mention the ever-present issue of trying to avoid the customer getting what the customer wants, and by talking to them, trying to find out what they actually need.
Well, so often,
so they don't mess up.
Well, oftentimes what I ran into is they would actually be under-spec'd for their projected growth. And that's where the APC product lines of UPSs were phenomenal, because you can buy that what you are actually still able to do is you are able to buy a frame that is can be an overrun for that load. However, you can have the individual modules that are installed in that frame spec'd out for spec'd out for what is currently there, and then as your load grows, all you have to do, throw in a few more power modules, throw in a few more battery banks, and you can do that with the system live and not take it down at all. But here's the kicker, here is the catch. What I found is to be the most frequent mistake that was made with that plan in place, the installing electricians would undersize the wiring on the input. Because because
current.
Well, because
Yeah,
that's the
overload
problem
situation.
with the that's the biggest issue. One of the biggest issues in rural areas, anyway, for customers that now have switch mode power supplies in their homes or businesses, compared to many years ago where they had linear power supplies. They would just, I mean, voltage sag across long lines is a bitch because you use a lot more power because of it.
Yeah.
Well,
Sure.
that and power factor as well.
Oh.
Although that's only not anything else, isn't it?
No, those are real amps you got to generate. Those VARs count.
Yeah.
No, what I'm talking about is there are talks here about the electrical companies providers, which is the state, I think, or it doesn't matter. They're talking about whether they will be allowed to at some point move over without talking without really talking about it in public, switching from measuring measuring the power consumption to measuring the apparent power consumption. In other words, at worst, that you would have to, if you have one of those cheap light bulbs that use capacitive droppers, at best you would see 0.5, maybe 0.6 in a power factor, and that would be double the actual power consumption.
Yeah,
And they will, but is it only about measuring stuff here, or is it a way to make more money? I mean, or is there a technical issue with bad power factor correction?
well, there's a technical issue with it. If you've got to generate the volt ampere reactive, the VARs have got to be generated, and that's real current flow. Okay, but it's out of phase, so it's not real power. So that's why everybody wants to pay. You want to just pay for the actual usable power you get, the kilowatts you get. The utilities, on the other hand, are standing there scratching their heads, saying, "Wait a minute, we got to give you all these amps, and you're not paying for all the amps. You're only paying for the real part of it, not the imaginary side."
Yeah. So what you're basically saying is that it may primarily is a matter of, hey, we can make extra money here, and not having an actual problem of equipment breaking down more often, or
technically, so this is from the utility side. The way they're looking at it is, our billable is not matching necessarily what we are generating, and they're trying to recoup that loss between the two.
Yeah, but the amount of energy they produce will not change, though.
No, so the difference. So here's the difference: is if they were actually if they're actually able to get the household meters to read the same metric that they are using on their generation side, so you're looking at things in a 1-to-1 fashion just from the metric being applied, that will resolve the issue on their billing of, okay, this is how much we're generating versus the actual between what is showing as being utilized at all the meters out there. So that's where you are going to have, the tough part is you are always going to have some loss due to transmission distance. Even with a smart grid, you're still going to have that percentage loss. So the utility company, from a ethical standpoint, is never going to be able to appropriately bill in a way that is going to 100% match their generation reading at their generation point, because there's that signal loss between, and also your conversions and your stepping up and stepping down along the way, you're getting minute losses that when you go over the entire grid, those minute losses at all these individual points add up to a measurable loss between what's actually being utilized, what is actually billable, versus what they're generating. And they're trying to narrow that gap between the two by trying to get things read and measured a different way.
Well, okay, two things then. One is a power unity power factor, as opposed to, let's say, a power factor of something horrific like 0.1. Will the power losses on long stretches of power cable runs, is that different, or is that the same? So that is the same, isn't it?
So if you have if you're getting a power factor of 0.1 versus a near unity, your signal difference, you will actually have greater loss at the lower power factor.
Okay, fair enough.
Because of the out of phase. So that's where trying to get your load from the utility standpoint, what the biggest thing with the smart grids that they want to do isn't just reducing downtime, it's also load sharing across the phases. And that's what's going to actually help balance out any power factor issues of what's being utilized on the consumer end, which will then work towards harmonizing what is our billable versus what is our generation. And I don't fault the utility companies by doing that, because the maintenance, so they're always going to generate more power than is actually going to be utilized, again, because of that transmission loss. So they are never going to recoup 100% of what they actually generate. So they need to make sure that in order for proper upkeep of their equipment and proper cash flow, that their billing is as accurate as possible.
Well, here, since we are almost all of us on smart meters, both commercial companies and private homes, etc., we are all using smart meters. I think we're just about done, swapping out all the old ones, which means that the power companies can talk to them over the power cables themselves. They're also talking about, making a standard wireless system. The byproduct of this heating is the electricity we use. If a consumer, pumps back water that is too cold, there's a penalty. That's why that our heat exchangers are intelligent, so they manage the water flow of that system. For the electricity, they could just have those power meters, give you penalty points for bad power factor, and it would be the customer's problem, making sure it would be getting better power supplies, or getting what would you call them, conditioners?
Line conditioners,
power-
yeah.
Active power,
Power
active
fac-
power conditioning.
Power factor
Yeah.
correction is devilishly
Yeah, but on a
simple.
house,
All you do
but
is
on a but on a household scale though.
all you do is stick capacitors on it. Power factors are always going to be lagging. That's
Yeah.
the truth.
Power.
You will not have leading power factors. Roads are going to be predominantly inductive or slightly inductive. So
Yeah.
to correct a power factor, all you need is the equivalent capacitive bars, capacitive
Yeah,
reactance.
but it has to be. Yeah, but that is variable.
Yeah.
So it would have to be an active system that
Yeah.
constantly plugs in and connects and
Yeah.
disconnect capacitors.
And
then
so
But then again, I'm starting to think about a 1 farad capacitor bank for each phase. Oh, that would be fun.
Well,
no,
so-
no.
and actually it wouldn't take that much. It really wouldn't take that, because here's the thing. There is actually a UPS topology out there that already did that. So a lot of the customers, a lot of the facilities that went with this particular style of UPS, they already had that built in, and some of them were kind of annoyed at first because they're like, "Oh, we thought this was going to save us on our utility bills and everything," and it's like, no, it just made it more accurate. Now that you have this information, now if you get your load split and shared appropriately, now you will start to see the proper savings. And so, Blue, have you ever seen a delta conversion UPS?
When you say delta conversion, I'm not sure what you're.
So,
I'm not sure what it is.
Your typical UPS topology is like you have your dual conversion where you go AC to DC, DC back to AC for your output.
Right.
Active stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
So there's a topology out there which was actually initially developed by the Danes and then was bought by APC and utilized in both their Silicon product line, which has since been discontinued, and the Megawatt line. It is a built-in power factor correction, near unity guaranteed UPS system.
Bar
How
generator.
the hell would it do it?
Oh, well, so the way they did it is, so they used the big systems had a transformer for each phase of your input power, and that transporter, that delta transformer, was an active backfeed for power correction.
Oh, I thought you were going to say just a big ass massive inductor, and that.
So
that was it.
no, that's actually, so the way they did it. So the way it worked, if you were to take a look at a line diagram for it, this delta transformer is right there, right off of the input power block, but you're going into one side of the primary on the transformer, and take a guess where the other side of the primary is going. Directly to your output. So you essentially have a straight through feed there. However, your output is also branched down to your delta inverter and delta rectifiers to provide your DC bus to keep your available battery backup happy. And then the other side of that DC section then feeds back to the secondary side of that delta transformer to use that inductive property across the windings to correct your output line.
So we're actually talking about a kind of pseudo flywheel.
Yes,
But
it's an electronic flywheel. It's an electricity-based flywheel in that aspect, with an active DC bus for power when input is lost.
Yeah, because I think I've heard of back when we used to use DC power here, that substation or some substations had a massive flywheel, which by kinetic energy was being used as a kind of buffer, not for power correction, of course, but for just for keeping up the voltage or something like that.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I'm not sure. By the way, another super chat.
Yep. Super chat from NANA for $6.66. Hail Sagan. Actually, this one is for you, Blue. Would you like to read it?
What in the world? Okay. There's just one thing, dude. Do you have to use so many cuss words? How's that?
Oh, sounded fantastic to me.
How'd I
I
do?
think I have to inspect the veterinary installations for a moment.
But my question is, did you have an open bottle of beer and do you have the mustache to go with it?
No, I don't. Unfortunately.
It's not November anymore.
Oh, and some people do that year round, as they should.
Not long after I met my wife, I found out she had never seen The Big Lebowski before, and I had to fix that. So
Wow.
I haven't. It's not from. I don't think it's for me at all, actually. But oh
I
well.
think I could find the bottle of beer, but the mustache is going to take a few weeks.
And to think, some people have actually made what could be legitimately called a religion from that movie.
Yeah.
The dude abides.
Oh, yeah.
Now, here's my thing. Did he take on the character after the movie, or did they write the movie because that's how he really is?
I got to believe that's how he really is.
Me too, because when you look at a lot of his roles after that movie, they all have that touch of the dude to them. All of them.
Yeah.
And yes, well, NANA, yes, the character who did that line in The Big Lebowski was Sam Elliott, but right now we're actually talking about the actual main character, the dude, Mr.
Yep.
Bridges. Which I do have to say, I really wish the CGI youth effect that they used in Tron Legacy, I wish it was better.
Oh, did you ever see that short video it's on YouTube somewhere if you look for it, called the Tron Lebowski? It's hilarious if you haven't seen it.
Yeah. Now, yes, NANA, Sam Elliott was like that for all of his roles. He was, when they say typecast, he was. But when you look at Jeff Bridges, after The Big Lebowski, he ended up doing a lot more roles that definitely had that flavor of the dude to him in some way or form. As it... Oh, yeah, we'll have to take a look at that after. But as it stands right now, we have actually been going for, well, a little over 2.5 hours, and it looks like the event for movie night was actually set to start at 11:30-ish. So I am going to have to end up calling this one here short in a few minutes, so I actually have some time to get ready and transition everything from this over to movie night so we can actually start at a reasonable amount of time. Because unlike some people, the later we start, the longer it goes, the more annoyed that I'm gonna get. And by the way, I'm hosting, so yeah, when I say piss on boots, we're gonna be moving right along.
But when we're not wearing boots,
Get some.
yeah, but not boots. And by the way, countdown is at T-minus for 24 minutes.
And some odd seconds, yeah.
Yeah, depending on delay.
Yeah, well, and the thing is, I need to get everything set up. Well, no, I need to get everything set up so I can go in and grab what I need from the stream and everything before we hit that timer, because the new YouTube studio setup is a pain in the ass when it comes to that stuff.
So in other words, your next step will be get all that set up, turn off the computer, disconnect everything, and stick it in the freezer for 10 minutes while you eat some food, and then connect it right back as quickly as possible so you don't get condensation and just, to avoid it detonating.
No, I'm not so worried
Which
about
is
that.
That's the issue I have. I mean, I think the why can't I remember what they're called anymore? Heat pipes on my laptop are, worn out.
Which,
if that's even possible.
Which, by the way, audience out there who is going to be moving over to movie night after this, if y'all have a contact point for RJ Downer, go ahead and let him know that he has been missed, and we would enjoy having him on the panel tonight, because, oh boy, are we going to have some interesting, stupid...
Hey, I have been saying that, my computer is detonating, heat and stuff.
Yeah, go do what you need to.
You haven't been watching the certain secret chat room that we're using here, because RJ has replied.
Oh, he has, okay.
To the fact that he will be there.
Okay, good. Because here's the thing. I can't have that open while I'm streaming at the same time. System resources are a wonderful thing.
Cell phone? I mean, Crapple?
On the same internet connection point.
Why? Oh,
well. Because you generally only get one internet drop into a home.
Yeah, what you're talking about.
And here's the thing: is I'm not going to shut off the Wi-Fi and start eating up my mobile data if I don't need to.
What is a data cap, by the way? I don't remember.
Oh, so here's the thing. It's not that I have a data cap. They throttle it after a certain point, which is it's either 2 or 5 gigs a month. I forgot.
Oh, you're being ripped. Yeah, I mean, yeah. You're getting shafted is what I should have said.
Well, yeah. Well, welcome to American infrastructure, where they feel like dicking around and screwing people every which way they can.
Throttling? What's that?
Yeah. I do believe you also, back in the day, had an issue where you could only have one computer connected to the internet.
Oh, yeah, dial-up.
No, not even, even after dial-up. On ISDN, for example. Where you were only allowed one IP address, in addition to the router itself, to be on the internet itself.
I never ran into that.
We had that many years ago, where you would only in certain types of connections on coax, from our cable TV suppliers. You would have to pay per device connecting to the internet.
Well, so coax, because coax was the shared backbone, that's where they would try to limit the traffic to that, to an address limit, so you're not getting bogged down. Because what'll happen is...
This was way before digital broadcasting, by the way.
Yeah. Well, even
before
with
DVB.
Even with the digital now, through the coax backbone and those types of networks, you're still... The more... So... cable TV ISP versus, say, someone like Verizon Fios, who is doing predominantly fiber. You can have the same amount of individual nodes connected on the network and active. You will get better bandwidth throughput on Fios, because when they tell you that you have this much bandwidth available to you, because they're running the fiber backbone and the way they have it split out, and their physical topology, you're getting what closer to what they advertise. Whereas coax is like, nah, you get what you get out of based off of the backbone and how many other people are doing shit.
But just for reference, I have never heard of anyone today, these days, complaining about, cable TV provider, cable ISPs not providing what they advertise. I have certainly never experienced it myself. Have to press switch. Never seen a bottleneck.
All right, so with that, we are calling it night. Thank you for everyone who has shown up. And yeah, this is definitely quite the varied topic. It's been a while since we've actually gone down the road of more intellectual and technical pursuits, with especially on the engineering side, we'll definitely have to make it a point for something like that to happen again.
Yeah. Next week we're going to talk about the challenges of NBIS. and how to properly use PCL.
That
no, it has nothing to do with beer.
That could be interesting. Well, until then, we will see you all next week. And for those who are interested, we will see you on Size Strike's channel for movie night here in about 30 minutes. We'll be going live. A little more, maybe. Depends on how I feel.
The link again.
I think I still have it saved.
Oh, main gun, damn it. What the hell? He just dropped in.
Leave it to the frickin' Marines to be late.
Right.
Don't worry, Main Gun. You can make up for it next week or on the next stream, which will be happening soon enough. Till then, later, all.
And keep... Nah.
Oh, why do you...
crayon consumption to a low. Sorry. Hey, I should be allowed to tease him with that.
Well, sure.
I mean, I've practically come off the alcohol. Practically. You should be able to get off the crayons now.
All right.
Well,
good night, everyone.
It was a real pleasure, guys. Thanks for inviting me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, and sorry we didn't rag on you enough. No, wait, your army. You should. You don't deserve it.
I probably